All right, first thing we're going to go over is alarm output. Typically, you would use the alarm output for like maybe like a siren or a floodlight. You think of the alarm output as a switch, like a light switch, could turn off and on, and you can have your recorder, your NVR, your DVR trigger that output depending on, that could be like a motion detection event. You could have it trigger the alarm output, for example, trigger whatever devices you have connected to this alarm output. Let's go over a little bit about like just the wiring for it. For a simple siren or a floodlight that maybe just has two conductors on it, you have both of the positives going to the alarm output. The alarm output usually has two terminals, either like labeled 1 and G or 1A, 1B. And you see this kind of forms a loop where it's negative to negative, positive to positive. And then what the alarm output does, it is a normally open connection, normal off position. The circuit is disconnected. Okay. And then when, the alarm output triggers for whatever reason, where there's like a motion detection or a line crossing, it will switch the relay, and then it will complete the circuit, right? Allowing power to flow, allowing your siren to go off. We're logged into one of my NVRs here. The setting is under, configuration, event, alarm output. The alarm outputs that you have on your recorder. This one I have only has one alarm output on the back of it. So that's A1. This one here, we'll get into this one in a little bit, but this one is on one of the IP cameras. We're on the alarm output, we select which one we want to do any configurations for. The delay is how long the alarm output is triggered for. So it could be 5 seconds, then it will turn off. You could set that to however long you like. And then the manual would be, you'd have to manually clear the alarm for it to turn off. The arming schedule, if you want the siren to only go off or to only be armed certain hours of the day, you could set that up here, like 6 to or whatever, 6 to 6, for example. You can copy it to 7 days of the week and save that. So now we're going to go over a little bit about how to set that up. Let's say like if we want to do motion detection for camera 1, we could draw our area. We need to make sure the motion detection is enabled, of course. And then the main thing we want to look at is the linkage method, trigger alarm output, so that whenever camera 1 detects motion, it'll just trigger the alarm output 1 on the back of the recorder. We're going to move into the human and vehicle detection. This one right here is an IP camera. This is an older camera. This doesn't have the motion 2.0. It shows you the video for that camera, and it shows you detection area. Where's the red grid across the video? If you want, you can clear it. You can, draw certain areas and then save it, so it'll only detect motion on these red grids, okay? But now with the cameras that have the motion 2.0 function, where it doesn't have this red grid anymore, it was replaced with a green box. By default is on the outline of this video. If we clear it and if we draw it again, is a little bit more noticeable. So this would be the detection area that we draw. And what's neat about this, essentially like 10 different points for the area shape, right? So you can have, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, something like this. You can have the motion detects it in this odd shape, and it's up to 10 points. So whenever you draw it, you just click, 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 click. And then whenever you're done, drawing your points, you just right click on the video and it will establish this area. And of course, we make sure we need to save it to save the setting. On the right here, you see the detection target. I have human and vehicle checked. You can have them both checked if you just want one or the other. One important thing to note on the human and vehicle detection function, for the recording, the recorder is still going to record all the motion. So what does the detection target actually do? The detection target is actually good for things like, if you want to send notification to the phone app. If you've dealt with push notifications to the phone app, you'll know you probably get 1,000 of notifications a day. If you just have it on regular motion detection, you have like the full screen drawn. But with the human vehicle detection, the camera detects a human, for example, only then will it send you a notification. The recorder will record all motions, okay? So like even if a leaf walks across the video, it'll still record that. And then the line crossing intrusion detection. So this is the same camera. Let's say we do a line crossing. There's enable line crossing. We could draw our line, select, again, if you want human and or vehicle, the direction and sensitivity, things like that. These cameras, you can do up to 4 lines for line crossing and also up to 4 intrusion detection areas for intrusion. Like I could have an area like this. Let me save that. And I can have a second area, like maybe here, save that, right? And you can have up to, 4 of these boxes for both the intrusion and line crossing. As far as like tying in with the alarm output goes, just go to the linkage method of the event that you're setting up and enable the trigger alarm output. And so the intrusion detection areas here, it will trigger the alarm output if it detects a human. Oh, well, we only have it set to human. So this camera that we're using in particular here is has the Motion 2.0. This model also has the active deterrence. So this camera actually has a built-in sort of like a light and speaker. It's essentially function as a siren or a floodlight by itself. This model that I'm using here is, okay, so it has its own floodlight, has its own speaker, and this model still has an alarm output. So if you want to wire, any additional, like a siren or buzzer, you can still do so. For the flashing alarm light, audio output, if you have a camera that has this function and you have it on the NVR, essentially have these 2 new menus here for the light output and the audible alarm output of the camera. These are 2 separate outputs. They can be configured individually, have one work and not the other. For example, like if you only want the light, you can just have the light go off. You don't necessarily need to have both of them go off at the same time. So we go to the flashing light output, flashing duration, essentially when it triggers, how long does the light stay on? It's a flashing light, so you can select how fast it flashes, or you could just have it just stay on for 15 seconds, for example. It also has an arming schedule that you can configure. And then the audible alarm, it has different alarm messages that you can set it to. So if you log into the camera itself, there's actually a test button. You can select the message. You could select how many times it repeats the message when it is triggered. And then, of course, it has its own arming schedule. To link it to an event, right? Same thing, right? Motion detection, full. Let me go back to the camera. You go to linkage method, it'll have the audible and light alarm. So if you want both, you would just check both and make sure to save to have that configured.
You recommend line crossing, the intrusion. What's more reliable?
Between the line crossing and the intrusion detection, what is more reliable? I see the intrusion detection used more than the line crossing typically. In conjunction with like the human and vehicle detection, they're both pretty reliable. I think for the intrusion detection, you maybe have more options because you could set things like the threshold, meaning you could draw an area and you can essentially set up like how long something needs to be in this area before the event triggers, right? And this is in seconds, this threshold. So you can have it like 1 second where somebody, if they intrude in this area, they have to be in this area for 1 second before it goes off. And then line crossing doesn't really have that, right? If something crosses the line, it's going to go off. I mean, the most you could do is set like a direction where somebody either they're coming in or going out, essentially.
I know we deal with it a lot with the line crossing. There's a vehicle in the driveway, so a cat runs across and trips the line. It basically sees a vehicle, which sends a notification.
If there's a vehicle parked and a cat goes across it, it triggers as well. Okay, one of the tricks to deal with that, I think, this is directly inside the camera here. It has an additional option, and it's the target validity. You can adjust this to essentially where it has like higher requirements for it to trigger, right? If it detects a human, it needs to match more requirements like this person, I don't know, like needs to have arms and legs. You could try to bump this validity higher so the camera is looking harder, filtering out more false alarms in this case. But this is a setting that you have to log in directly to the camera for this target validity option.
All right. What about some of those other scene change and other types?
Scene change, I'm gonna be honest, I've never used this one, never found a use. However much it'll trigger it. But generally it's just intrusion, line crossing, or like region entrance or region exiting. It's similar to intrusion detection, but where you draw in an area, but it's only like for the entrance, it's only looking for somebody entering the area, and then for exit is only looking for people exiting the area.